Hello everyone, I am Dr. Mili Kulsresh from Erudite Chemistry classes, and today in this video I am taking very important topic, ionic bonding. This is the basic topic of our chemistry because it gives you an idea about the bonding between the two type of elements. Here the topic two type of element means here metals and non-metals. In your NCERT, one statement is given, that is how the metal react with non-metal. So here in this particular topic we will be learning about actually how the metals react with the non-metals. So I am starting from the basic concept, that is first you understand what is metal, then we will talk about what is non-metal, and then we will go for this particular topic called ionic bonding. So let us start with the topic, what are metals? So according to chemistry, as a chemistry student, you should know what is metal. Metal is not only that which is luscious, malleable, ductile, sonorous. These are the only physical properties of metal. But actually, according to chemistry, what is metal? The chemical definition, the definition which defines the chemistry of the metal is, the metal are those substances which has tendency to lose the electron. So every element which has tendency to lose the electron is called metal, and that element which has tendency to lose the electron easily is a better metal, and that is why we have a reactivity series in which all the metals are arranged according to their capability. Means the good metal is at the upside, and when we move in the T series up to down, we get the metal quality degrading. So this is what we have reactivity series. So first of all, I am giving you one example or two example of metals. So here I am writing down one simple example of metal which we all know, that sodium is a metal. How we are defining it as a metal? Because the sodium is 11 and the configuration of sodium becomes 281, and this means there is one electron in its outermost shell. And just because it has one electron only in its outermost shell, what it will do? Either it can take 7 electrons to complete its octet, because octet rule says that there must be 8 electrons in the outermost shell of every element. If you don't have, just arrange it from somewhere. If you have extra, give it to somebody, but make sure that every element should have 8 electrons in its outermost shell. So sodium क्या करेगा? Either it can gain 7 electron or it can lose its 1 electron. Once it gains 6 electron, तो क्या होगा? 2, 8, and after the gaining of 7, it becomes 8. So this will be the configuration which is a stable configuration. Or in case of losing, if it lose 1 electron, then it happens 2 and 8. This one is lost. So क्या होगा? In case of gaining, sodium will turn into 7 minus, because it is gaining 7 electron. So every electron which is extra will appear as a charge on its upside. दूसरी side क्या होगा? If it is losing its electron, so this is lacking of 1 electron. That is why 1 electron will be lesser and the proton will be in axis, and how many proton will be axis will appear on the right hand side, and in both the cases it will turn into ions. Now we know that 7 charges are not practically possible on any species. It is not possible to get or to give 7 electrons. Only 1, 2 and 3 electrons can be given, or 1 or 2 or 3 electrons can be taken by any element. So basically you cannot see more than +3 charges on any element, or never you can see more than -3 charges on any element. So here we have these two options. So this is obviously discarded because it is not going to work, because we cannot have 7 minus charges, too much charge on any element. तो क्या करेगा? Sodium will lose its 1 electron, and that element which has tendency to lose is called metal. Hence we will call this sodium as metal. I hope it is clear to you now. Let me give you one more example here. I am taking this time magnesium. Okay. So what is magnesium? Magnesium is 12 and it has configuration 2, 8 and 2. And now just because it is having 2 electrons, it has tendency to lose 2 because it cannot gain 6 again, because if it gains 6 it will get 6 minus, and practically it is not possible to get more than minus 3 charges. तो क्या करेगा for magnesium? Magnesium will also give its 2 electron, and when it will lose its 2 electron, the configuration will become 2 and 8. And once it becomes 2 and 8, the magnesium will acquire which charge? Positive, क्योंकि इसका माइनस कम हो गया तो कौन ज्यादा हो गया? प्रोटॉन. हाउ मेनी प्रोटॉन्स विल बी इन एक्सेस? जितने इलेक्ट्रॉन लूज किए हैं. सो दैट इज व्हाई मैग्नीशियम विल गेट Mg+2 charge. So in short I can say the tendency of the element to lose the electron makes them metal, and that is why these kind of element which have tendency to lose are called metals. अब क्या करने वाले हैं हम? ये तो हो गए metals. अब next type of elements which we have is non-metal, because these two are going to react. एक देगा एक लेगा. So let us talk about the another kind of element, and these are, the example is chlorine. So I am taking the example of chlorine, which is having atomic number 17. So what will be the configuration? 2, 8 and 7. Now what this chlorine can do? Either it can lose its 7 electron to make it stabilize, or it can gain 1 electron to make itself stabilize. तो क्या करेगा? What is easier for it? It is easier for the chlorine to get 1 electron, and when it gains 1 electron, इसका configuration क्या हो जाएगा? 2, 8 and 8. 7 plus 1, 8. So this becomes the configuration of chlorine, and it is a stabilized configuration according to octet rule also. ठीक है. अब क्या किया? Because it has gained 1 electron, the charge of the electron will appear. कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन इसने गेन किए? 1. तो how much charge will be appeared on it? -1. So this becomes chloride ion. In the same way, we can define another atom also, that is oxygen. Oxygen is 8. And what is the configuration of the oxygen? 2 and 6. So what this oxygen should do? Either it should lose 6 electron, or it should gain 2 electron. What is easier? To lose 2. If it loses 6, इसके पास +6 charge आ जाएगा. If it gains 2, इसके ऊपर -2 charge आएगा. तो what is easier? It is not possible to lose 6, because to lose 6 is not possible, क्योंकि कोई भी atom +3 या -3 से ज़्यादा चार्ज ले ही नहीं सकता. तो क्या करेगा ऑक्सीजन? ऑक्सीजन will gain 2 electron, and when it gains, क्या होगा ऑक्सीजन? Oxygen will turn into 2,8, but the charge on oxygen will appear as -2. And just because they gain the electron, they are not metal. What they are? They are non-metal. So we have learnt about that element have tendency to lose the electron, metal. Element which have tendency to gain the electron, non-metal. Now let us understand how we are going to show the ionic bonding between them. And for that sake, we need very special type of structure. What they are called? They are called Lewis structure. So I am going to tell you how to draw Lewis structure of the metal or non-metal or any of the element. So I am going to draw Lewis structure in front of you. Okay, let us talk about the Lewis structure. So let us now understand how to draw the Lewis structure and what are Lewis structure. Lewis structures, which are also called electron dot structure. If we want to draw the Lewis structure of any element or any ion, what we do is we just write down the symbol of that element. Suppose I am asking you to draw the Lewis structure of sodium. So first of all, write down what is sodium. Write down its configuration first, so that we will come to know what kind of element it is and how many electrons are there in its outermost shell. Actually, in Lewis structure, we talk about only outermost shell electrons, and these outermost shell electrons are shown in these structure using a dot only. अब क्योंकि हम इन्हें डॉट से ही सिंबलाइज कर रहे हैं, these structure are also called electron dot structure. So how you are going to draw Lewis structure of sodium? Because there is 1 electron in the outermost shell of the sodium, Lewis structure of sodium will be drawn as sodium, the metal, the name of the element will be written. As well, 1 electron in the outermost shell is there. That is why I will draw only 1 dot along with sodium. We will not talk about the innermost shell electrons. So this is Lewis symbol or Lewis structure of sodium. If we talk about Lewis symbol of chlorine, How we are going to draw the Lewis symbol of the chlorine? Let's find out what is the configuration of the chlorine. How many electrons are there in the outermost shell of the chlorine? 7. So how we will write down the Lewis symbol of the chlorine? Cl, which is the symbol of the element, and the last shell electron. How many electrons are there? 7. If 7 electrons are there, we will distribute them evenly in the 4 direction. How? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So this is, we have Lewis structure or electron dot structure of chlorine. In the same way, if we want to talk about the Lewis dot structure, electron dot structure of the hydrogen, this is it. If we want to draw the Lewis structure of potassium, this is it. You can write the dot either this side or this side, anywhere you want. But if there are more than 2, 3, 4 dots, we will start arranging them in a very proper manner in the different direction, keeping a particular distance in between, so that it will look symmetrical and it will look good also, and it will be easy for you to understand and count the electrons present in that atom. So these are the Lewis structure. Now let me tell you what is ionic bonding and how it is shown using the Lewis symbols. So are you ready for it? Now let us start the topic. So I am drawing here the Lewis symbol of the sodium, as I have already told you that sodium symbol and its 1 electron. I am going to draw the Lewis symbol of the chlorine also, that is chlorine and its 7 electron. Now what their need says, this want to lose and this want to take. So obviously they are complementary to each other. If it gains and it loses, both of them will get satisfied, and that is why metals and non-metals react by losing and by gaining the electron. One of the element, that is metal, always loses, which is gained by the atom, that is non-metal atom, and this creates a bonding between these two, and this type of bonding is called ionic bonding. Why we are calling this bonding as ionic bonding? Do you know that? After the loss of electron, this is going to lose the electron. After this loss, what will be the number of electron in the sodium? There were 11 electron before. अब एक lose करने के बाद कितना हो जाएगा? There will be 10 electron in the sodium and the charge will be positive. So after the loss of electron, that will become cation. On the same way, if this chlorine is gaining its electron to get the extra stability, this chlorine is going to get the electrons, and I am going to draw it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. 7 electrons from the chlorine, 1 it is gaining from the sodium. So here I am doing 1 which is gained by the sodium. Because it has gained 1, it will acquire -1 charge on it and it will turn into an ion. Okay, now what will happen? Because this is cation, this is anion. These two are the different ions, and because of the opposite charges present on them, both of them will attract each other, and this type of bonding which will bring these two together, because of electrostatic forces of attraction between them, they will come closer, and this type of bonding is called ionic bonding. So what is ionic bonding? Ionic bonding is the bonding which is because of the complete transfer of the electron from the metal to the non-metal. This leads to the formation of cation. Metal converts into cation and non-metal converts into anion. And these two, because of the electrostatic forces of attraction, remains together with each other with the strongly holding forces between them, and just because their forces are very strong, they become solid. So what will be the physical nature of these type of compounds formed by the ionic bonding? They all will be solid in a state. The reason behind is strong forces of attraction between them. So always remember the physical property of all ionic compound will be that they exist in the solid state. The reason is same, because of strong forces of attraction between the minus and plus. The second property, characteristic property of ionic compound will be all of them will have high melting point and high boiling point. So what will be the next property? High melting point, and boiling point. Reason behind high melting point, boiling point is same as in case of its solid state. What is that reason? Because they were strongly held with each other. They are not easy to separate out. That is why their melting point, boiling point becomes higher. So the same reason is there because of their strong forces of attraction between these two species. Next property of these elements is these compounds are soluble in polar solvent, or the best example of polar solvent is water. So these are soluble in water. So these are soluble in water. Water is a polar solvent. Polar means which has poles in it. Poles means in our chemistry there are two poles, positive and negative. And water, what we are talking about here is water is H2O, and oxygen having the tendency to attract the shared pair of electron. This becomes slightly negative, leaving this slightly positive and slightly positive, due to which although this hydrogen is not giving its electron completely to the oxygen but थोड़ा सा खींचता रहता है. Because of this, oxygen gets slight negative charge on it, and hydrogen, because its electrons are pulled towards the oxygen, ये हो जाता है positive. So what is the nature of this water molecule now? Polar, because you can see the separation of two charges between, that is positive and negative, and now this becomes polar, and that is why water is called polar solvent. Now this polar solvent has tendency to dissolve polar kind of molecules in it. पोलर काइंड ऑफ मतलब वो मॉलिक्यूल जिनमें पोल्स होंगे, मीन्स प्लस माइनस होंगे. तो वी ऑल हैव लर्न राइट नाउ दैट दीज टू आर made up of cation and anion. The bonding between cation and anion it is. So if it is between the cation and anion, the molecule are polar. If the molecule is polar, this molecule is polar, this will follow the rule called like dissolves like. What does it mean? जो जैसा होता है उस वैसे में ही घुलता है. That is like dissolves like rule will be applied at the time of dissolving of any compound in any solvent. So just because the water is solvent here, which is polar in nature, this compound, ionic compound, is polar here, which is going to be dissolved in this polar solvent, because both of them are alike, and that is why they will be dissolved in each other. So we will understand that concept, soluble in water. Why they are soluble in water? Because they are alike. So what? Because like dissolves like. So this rule applies to all kind of solubility, because they are soluble in polar solvent. On the other hand side, we have next property of this and these kind of compound, ionic compound, and the next property is they are good conductor of electricity. But when they are in molten state or in their aqueous solution. So as I mentioned here, aqueous state and molten state. So let us understand these two terms. Aqueous state means when it is dissolved in water. So obviously when this sodium chloride will be dissolved in water, ये सोडियम क्लोराइड जब पानी में आप घोलेंगे तो क्या बनाएगा? It is going to dissociate into its ion, because it is composed of ions. So this will dissociate into ions, and ions will conduct the electricity on passing electricity into it. This will help to conduct the electricity, क्योंकि प्लस जाएगा माइनस की तरफ, माइनस जाएगा प्लस की तरफ. On the same way, if you are taking molten state of this, molten means this sodium chloride is in its liquid state. We are not talking about the aqueous solution. Aqueous solution means dissolved in water. Molten state means पिघला हुआ. तो जब आप इस सोडियम क्लोराइड को पिघला हुआ लेंगे, मतलब now it is sodium chloride NaCl in liquid state, means you are going to melt it and then you are going to pass the electricity into it. Then obviously because of the nature of this sodium chloride is ionic, so it will dissociate into its ion, that is Na plus ion and Cl minus. On the other hand side, if this NaCl is dissolved in water, the state will be called as aqueous state. In that case, what will happen? We will dissociate the sodium chloride also, as well we will be getting another ions also. कौन से ions मिलेंगे हमें? H plus and OH minus ions also. So you will be getting 4 ions in case of the aqueous solution, जबकि you will be getting only 2 ions. ओनली 2 आयंस, क्योंकि और कुछ था ही नहीं इसमें. तो क्या डाला आपने? सोडियम क्लोराइड. तो सोडियम क्लोराइड टूटेगा तो इसमें टूटेगा Na प्लस एंड Cl माइनस. सो दिस इज molten state dissociation. This is aqueous state dissociation. Whatever is the dissociation, it will dissociate and will help in conducting electricity. वो तो ठीक है, लेकिन why it is not conducting electricity in its solid state? The reason is solids are very compact. They are not allowed to move. If they are not allowed to move, how they are going to carry the charges? That is why they are not good conductor of electricity. Only statement will not be there. The statement has to be completed by writing down clearly that they are good conductor of electricity in the molten state or aqueous solution. Okay. Now I hope you know what is ionic bonding. That is the bonding between the metals and non-metal, which takes place by the complete transfer of electron from the metal to non-metal, which makes the metal positive ion, which makes the non-metal negative ion. So let us do some practice questions, some of the examples, so that this concept will be very clear to you. Here I am taking one more example, that is magnesium chloride. And I am going to show you how to draw formation of ionic bond in the magnesium chloride. So let us write down what is magnesium first. It is Mg12 and the configuration becomes 282. On the other hand side we have chlorine. Chlorine is 17 and the configuration becomes 2, 8 and 7. Okay, so what is the tendency of magnesium? To lose the electron. I am drawing here its Lewis structure. How many electrons are there? 2. So I am drawing here 2 electrons in a symmetrical manner. If you want to keep them together, you can keep it. But I wanted to separate out them because electron always try to be apart from each other because they are having same charges. So this is the Lewis structure of magnesium. I am drawing here Cl, and Cl ka structure is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 electron in its outermost shell. Magnesium want to lose 2. But chlorine want to take only 1. So this comes to this chlorine, and another chlorine may be possible which can take the electron from the magnesium. So one more chlorine I am drawing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and this electron goes to this side. So this way you can see that magnesium is giving its electron to this and to this. So kul milake this magnesium will turn into Mg plus 2 by the loss of 2 electron, 1 to this and 1 to this, and these 2 chlorine atom, I am writing it as like this, 2 chlorine atom will convert into Cl minus ion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and what charge will be appeared on it? Minus 1. So minus 1 on 1 chlorine, minus 1 on 1 chlorine. So there is 2 chloride ion formed here. So what is the compound form? 1 magnesium, 2 chloride will form by combining with each other magnesium chloride. I hope it is clear to you how to show the electron transfer. This curved arrow, okay, this curved arrow is indicating the transfer of electron. The head of this arrow is indicating from the metal to non-metal. So the direction of the arrow has to be mentioned clearly, because always remember that electron is transferred from the metal to non-metal. So I hope it is clear now. Let us take one more example, and that will be the last one. Now I am taking the example of calcium oxide. So it's calcium oxide. What is calcium? Calcium is 20, and what is the configuration? 2, 8, 8 and 2. What is the configuration of oxygen? 8, 2 and 6. Outermost shell, 2 electrons. So let us write down the Lewis symbol of the calcium. 1, 2. What is the Lewis symbol of the oxygen? Oxygen, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. It want to lose its 2 electron to get stabilized. It want to gain 2 electron to get stabilized. This is going to donate its electron completely. Electrons are being transferred completely. The head of the arrow is towards the oxygen, means who is getting the electron? Oxygen. So what will happen then? Now this turn into Ca will turn into Ca plus 2 by the loss of electron, and oxygen will turn into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 इसके खुद के and 2 electrons, one from this side and one from this side, that is 1 and 2 from the calcium. Now because it has gained 2 electron, how much charge will appear on the oxygen? -2. So this way this is done. Now this +2 and -2, that is cation and anion, will combine and satisfy their valencies. So what will be formed? Calcium oxide. What is the type of compound? Ionic compound. Why it is so? Because it is made up of ions. What is ionic bonding? The bonding between the metal and non-metal, where the metal transfers its electron completely to the non-metal. And what will be the nature of this calcium oxide? Solid hoga, dissolve in the water, good conductor of electricity, having high melting point and boiling point. I hope this video will help you to understand the characteristic, how to make the compound, what is ionic bonding. So I hope this will be helpful for you to make this basic concept clear. Thank you.